What, ready? What a great sunny and non-windy morning it is today. I'm here to highlight some of the announcements that you do have on the back of your program, so I won't go into detail on some of those, but there are some other ones I want to talk about. I'm Linda Rochella. I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and first announcement is that the new UU class starts next week, March 23rd. This is the last day for signups. I noticed the sign-up is at the back table in the lobby, so please, if you're a new member, I highly recommend. These are really great classes. You wind up meeting a lot of people in the church as a result of going to these classes. Even though I have been a Unitarian for 45 or more years, when I first came to this church, I took those classes too to get a perspective on the history, and I learned a lot. So I hope that new members will be a part of that. After the service today, those interested in sharing or discussing information or your reactions to issues on local, state, or national issues can meet in the coffee hour. We have a table set up just in the room, right off the great room, so you can have coffee, a snack, and talk about all of the things going on in the world, because there's a lot, I know. Let's see, also today is the Social Justice Committee Change for Change program. As if you're an ongoing member, you know that we donate all of the change from the offerings to some local charity once a year. So this is your chance for the year to vote on what the 4 charities will be. Every quarter they change. Your program shows the 5 charities that we are voting on. So one of those 5, I guess we won't be doing, depending upon how the vote turns out. But that's at 11:30 in this room today.
And there's lunch.
And that's right, a good incentive for coming, there's lunch. Always good to get, who says there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Well, it's gonna cost you your vote, so. There's no Death Cafe in March this month, but it'll be back again in April. RE program is starting up its Our Whole Lives sexual education for middle school students. And so these classes are free. You don't need to be a member of the church for a child to be in the program. Orientation and classes begin in April. Take a look at the flyers in the church if you need information on that. The Tomball Gallery is holding a art show for the New Mexico Watercolor Society. Again, details are in the back of your program, so please take a look at that. It's some very interesting work there. I had a chance to look at it last week, and it's very nice. Cleanup of the church campus continues on March 22nd. That's next Saturday from noon to 2. And contact Greg White or Karen Crumpton if you are interested in helping, or if you might have a grounds project you want to present to them. The last announcement is not on your program, so I want to spend a little bit more time on that. And that is that next Sunday, March 23rd, there will be the monthly listening session that we've started up. We call that What's Up, or we call it a listening session. It will be after church, 11:30, here in the sanctuary. And this month, the Sunday Services Committee is actually going to be taking the lead on that. And they will be wanting to listen to you, receive feedback about the way that the joys and concerns, joys and sorrows segment of the Sunday services is working or not working for you. So I know that there has been a lot of discussion about that issue. There's a lot of perspectives. This is your chance to talk directly to the Sunday Services Committee, to give them your feedback about all of those issues. It's also a time, and this is really important, it's also a time for you to hear the perspectives that might be different from your own about what's happening in joys and sorrows. Because as a board member, I have heard a lot on both sides of, well, I guess there's more than two sides, of course, there's many sides. And we board members have been hearing a lot of different perspectives on it. So even if you don't necessarily want to say something right now, it's a great way to hear what your other church members, if we're going to have and maintain beloved community here, we really need to have people listen to each other, and that's the reason for these monthly meetings. So please come, talk, and especially listen to what the other people have to say, because there are passionate views on all sides of this question, and we need to really care for each other even when we think differently. Okay, so please let your views be known. Okay, and with that, again, if you're new, welcome. If you're ongoing, welcome. I'm glad we're all here, and we'll get started with the church service.
Before we start to sing, I should alert you to my thinking about the songs and readings that I've chosen today as part of our service, focusing on the sources part of our statement of principles. As we go through the service, it might be fun for you to try to decide which source I had in mind in making those choices. It will probably be easy to match the source to our gathering song. It's 1046 if you have a hymnal. Shall we gather at the river? If you'll stand as you are willing and able.
Good morning, church. And welcome to the home of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Haney Pearson. Please find a seat. Our service is starting shortly. If you can, please fill the seats towards the front first. I know that's an anathema. We are happy you are here and hope you enjoy our warm and accepting spiritual home. All are welcome here. Help us create a serene and friendly worship atmosphere by greeting those around you and by putting your phone in worship or silent mode. If you didn't already get one, you can pick up and order a service, an assisted hearing device, or a large print hymnal in the lobby, or ask a greeter for one. In the order of service, you'll find announcements, future event dates, and other church information. You might just be surprised by how many events, activities, and opportunities we have available here. Again, my name is Haney Pearson, and I am this morning's service associate. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions you might have after the service. Our minister, the Reverend Rod Thompson, is in the pulpit this morning. Our director of religious education is Kelly Ingram, and the church administrator is Nancy Zacharias. Our temporary choir director, Rich Richards, had to take a few days off after dealing with the church choir for so long. This morning's music will be provided by the Carlsons, Nancy and David. I think you can tell the difference. Assisting us are Elwin Nunn on camera, Claire Neal Wallace on audio, and Mike Yasko on YouTube. Claire and Mike create all of the digital art you'll see and everything. Speaking of art, our chalice table is decorated by Diane Lee and Jillian Lang. Our greeters today are Susan West, Jack Welsh, and Gail Trantham. Hospitality is offered today by the Finance Committee, and we are all delighted to be with you today. Visitors, now that you have been made comfortable, the rest of us would like to meet you. If you are in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit and introduce yourself by telling us your name and where you are from. But wait until I bring the microphone to you. Do we have any visitors in the sanctuary this morning? I see a hand, and this does not want to stay up here.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, Malish. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Pamela Angel, and I've been in Las Cruces about 34 years. And today I've come with Mary and Skip, and I'm going to be part of the change. I'm going to do a short presentation on the Change for Change. I'm with the Amador Health Center.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all know I'm not new, but I'd like to introduce my mother-in-law, Sue Powers. She's come home and will be living with us forever and ever.
Do we have any online? Okay. No. All right. Okay, we are pleased that you have joined us today and ask that you please fill out a visitor's card in the lobby or send us your email so that we can invite you to other services and activities at the church. If you're a shy visitor but are curious about our church, please feel free to fill out a visitor's card and you'll receive the same invitation. Unitarian Universalism has neither creed nor dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agreed to live in relationship with each other according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms, as everyone is welcome. You can learn more about our church at our website, uuchurchlc.org. And please join us after the service for a coffee and conversation inside or outside the religious education building down the breezeway. This morning's chalice lighting was written by the Reverend Alice Acheka Naisman. I checked those online. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, each day new developments, falling economic indicators, changing guidelines, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy, we light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the flaming chalice came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a secret symbol that offered help. In the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community.
My opening words were adapted from the Reverend David Pohl. We come to this time and this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and the full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair and all her people one. So may it always be. Welcome to this celebration of life. I invite you to stand again as you're willing and able and join in the saying of our covenant, which will be on the screen, followed by the doxology in English and in Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
This community has found the sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones is a way of staying connected. However, we are not a closed community, and we invite visitors and those watching on streaming technology to participate in this practice. With all of the disinformation being disseminated, it is crucial that we make attempts to stay connected with one another. If you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone you would briefly share with the congregation this morning, please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone to you. State your name and what is on your heart. Oh yes, a gentle reminder, this is not a time for announcements. Are there joys, sorrows, or milestones this morning? Behind me, of course.
I usually, is it on? Yeah, it's on. Okay. I usually go and pick up Sandy Barbecue on the way, and I called her yesterday to see if she was, now it's on. So, I usually go and pick her up to come to services. I called her yesterday, and she spent the last couple of days at the hospital, but now she's in, what's the name of that place? The rehab. The one behind Solstice. You know, in room 144. We're going to go visit her right after service, but she's just, she's doing better as of yesterday, and she'd probably like some company.
Hi, I'm Charlie Schultz. I just wanted to tell you that my good friend Bill Fitzgerald is in hospital. He was taken ill yesterday, and Katie texted me this morning and said he's worse, so he's having some tests. And I'll keep you posted as to what's happening.
I'm Patrick, and I just wanted to let you all know that we had a drumming workshop yesterday with Yolanda Martinez, and it was just off the chart. So if she comes back again, I encourage you to please come and experience the joy of drumming. Thank you.
Thank you. No? Anyone else?
Good morning. I'm Tom Packard. I have a true joy. This coming week is the arrival of the big dance, which is the NCAA championships, men and women. And I'm hoping that my friend Cooper Flagg, who's from a little town in northern Maine called Newport, Maine, and is probably a generational player. I can honestly say that I think he really is. I hope he's in good form because he's been out this past several days with a rolled ankle, and I just hope the Blue Devils have another championship under their belt. Thank you.
New Englanders.
Good morning, I'm Helen. I just got approved for knee surgery. So, well, yeah, good news, scary news. But the best part of it is my daughter's going to come and stay with me for the week, and she's a physical therapist.
This morning I learned that Paul Curry, who is a newer member of our congregation, had a severe seizure, and he's in Mountain View's ICU.
Hello, I'm Janet Martinique, and last week my first husband, who is the father of my children, passed away from Alzheimer's.
Mine is very brief. So, I finally got a new tattoo on my arm of a butterfly that I've wanted for some time. Butterflies, of course, being symbol of transformation, and also now my mom has a dragonfly tattoo on her arm, and so we are matching in that way. That's my small joy today.
Good morning, I'm Pamela, and you met me moments ago. I have a milestone, which is on March 28th, I will retire from work. After 49 years working like a maniac, and the last 23 on the campus of Community of Hope, 10 years as the director of Mesilla Valley Community of Hope, and 13 years as formerly St. Luke's, now Amador Health Center.
Good morning, I'm Robert. Inspired by the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico, I'm writing a letter, putting it together to President Trump saying, why stop there? There's a whole solar system and planets out there that have old-fashioned names, like the Earth could be renamed Trump World, for instance. Anyway, if anybody has any suggestions, I'll put them in the letter. Thank you.
Thank you for your brief comments. And I will light an additional candle for all the joys, sorrows, and millstones that remain in our hearts.
Maybe I'll light it for you. I have a better idea. I invite you to remember the joys, sorrows, milestones shared this morning as we enter into this period of quiet for reflection, repose, meditation, and prayer. And I offer these words for reflection from my colleague, the Reverend Terry Sweetser. Imagine a spider's web spun in a great sheet. Its gossamer silk shines in the sparkling sunlight. Though fashioned of many strands, it moves as one pulsating skein with the rustle of a breeze. On its fringes, the web is almost invisibly tied to the world surrounding it. At first, it seems an isolated, suspended apparition, but stepping back, you can see it sways with nearby branches. Attached, yet free form, in constant half embrace with all of nature. Consider now the web's architect. No, not the dutiful spider, which from birth must instinctively spin with every movement. Consider yourself, the spinner of dreams, love, and just now this imaginary image of a spider's web. We choose the webs we weave. In these last moments, some chose the image I described, others did not, and still others lost interest along the way. Whatever your choice, it was an amazing example of the complicated creativity which is the interdependent web of all existence. With the sounds of our community all around us, let us enter into the silence. So be it. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen. I invite you now to join in the singing of our reflection hymn, 1002 in the Teal hymnal, or on the screen, Comfort Me. Now's the time to find your blue piece of paper. If you did not get one, I'm sure that one of our greeters will be happy to find them and bring you one. Oh, good. Obviously, on one side is our Unitarian Universalist principles, which have now changed, but we're going to use these today anyway. I invite you to read with me responsively. If you'll read those indented, italicized, bolded, we used all four of the. If you would read those, okay, he's going to put them up there anyway. Thank you. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Oh, I missed one, I'm sorry. My part I missed. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The right of conscience and the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. The living tradition we share draws from many sources. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanism teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our fellowship. Thank you, as usual. As Haney reminded us earlier, we are a non-creedal church. That doesn't mean we don't have them. It just means we don't have to accept them. We used to have creeds, which we also didn't have to accept. For example, the Liberty Clause from the Universalist 1803 Winchester Confession. Neither this nor any form of words shall be imposed as a creedal test. On the back side, or the other side of our blue sheet, you have a complete copy of those Winchester Confessions. By 1961, at the time of merger, when the Unitarian Church and the Universalist Church merged into the Unitarian Universalist Association, we needed a statement of corporate purpose. It satisfied most, at the time anyway. Those 1961 principles are also on the back of that page. 20 years later, by 1981, at the General Assembly in Philadelphia, it was clear that they needed to be revised to update and also get rid of that sexist language and imagery. Revisions were proposed that addressed some of the inadequacies, but they didn't go nearly far enough. And at that point, the women took over and led the effort, which essentially meant that the whole thing was referred to the congregations to look at and make their suggestions. If you were part of a Unitarian Universalist church in those early 80s, you might have also been part of that effort. I remember it very fond, well, I remember it anyway. I was the moderator of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Akron, Ohio at the time. By 1984, in Columbus, we were ready with a synthesized set of principles. I was fortunate enough to be on the local committee for that Unitarian Universalist General Assembly in Columbus. And at one point, I was even using a whiteboard, I think, to try to keep track of the motions and revisions that were proposed at that time. Fortunately, somebody who could spell better took over for me. Then something magical happened. The seventh principle, the one of the web, was proposed by my colleague, Paul LaRue. Everybody kind of looked at each other and said, of course, that should be part of the principles. Then we formed a committee of the whole, and we wrote poetry. Final approval was voted on at the next General Assembly with 7 affirmations and 5 sources. Then in 1992, an attempt was made to add the 6th source, adding earth-centered traditions and their sacred circles. It was debated and revised and debated and revised and debated again. Finally, it passed in its current form in 1994 and again in 5, since it was a B part of the bylaws and had to be voted on 2 different General Assemblies. The idea for the 8th principle was a grassroots effort that began building in the early 2000s and gained support over the next 10 years. We don't do anything fast. In 2013, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Mount Airy in Philadelphia became the first congregation to approve the 8th principle. Since then, and I'm not sure when since then was now, at one point there were 223 congregations and affiliated groups that had accepted and voted affirmatively on adding that 8th principle to the Unitarian Universalist principles of purposes. Our congregation voted for that in December of 2021. Individually, we do not have to subscribe to those principles to be a Unitarian Universalist, but they are a pretty good consensus of what Unitarian Universalists do value, a kind of working theology. To be part of the Unitarian Universalist Association, our congregation has agreed to affirm and promote those principles. I believe we have needed to examine these principles regularly and very carefully. What are we affirming and promoting? What are we encouraged to do? I'm sure you've heard homilies, many of them perhaps, on one or all of those affirmations, which is the first part of that statement we read together. But we don't often hear sermons or homilies about the sources. If these 8 affirmations defined who we are and what we value, then it's even more important for us to look at our roots, the roots of our living tradition, our sources. That is today's task, to turn it upside down and look at the end first, the sources. Next week, we'll look at the new statement of our Unitarian Universalist values, roughly referred to now as the jet pig. I'll explain that next week. Let's look at each of the sources individually, and if you have a mind to do so, if you would read each one of them with me as I talk about them. So, the living tradition we share draws from our sources, direct experience. You can read it with me, you have it on the blue paper. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to renewal of the spirit and openness to the forces that create and uphold life. Now, just one at a time. I get to talk in between. That transcending mystery and wonder, which opens us to creativity and life-affirming behavior. This is the foundation of all religion, the foundation of hope, of optimism, of community. This mystery and wonder, it can be as simple as the sunrise that ends the night, or the tides that wash clean the beach, or the winds that blow across the desert, or that the light comes on when you flip the switch, or this wonder and mystery can be as complex as the interconnections of all matter and energy. I experienced that mystery and wonder one starry night, lying on a bench outside of the lodge of the Mountain Camp and Conference Center in western North Carolina. I don't know why it had taken me so long, but as I was lying there looking up at those beautiful stars, that I realized that I'm made of the same stuff as those stars. Think about this source. Can you see its influence on Unitarian Universalism? I can certainly see this source's influence on our Sunday services, our meditations and silences, and our music. And hopefully from some homilies where the preacher shares his or her personal experiences. Can you see the connection between this source and those 8 affirmations? I see direct connection to 3 of them: acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. Each of us has to have our own experience, direct experience. To the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, direct experience has to be free. And respect for the interdependent web of all existence, it could be said that the web is the mystery. At the General Assembly last June, the Assembly passed a revision of Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association's bylaws, where our principles had been housed, but brought into focus on our values: justice, equity, transformation, can't read my own writing, pluralism, thank you, interdependence, and generosity. That, by the way, those first letters do spell out jet pig, by the way. So looking at those values, I think this source can be directly linked to at least 2 of these values: interdependence, where we honor the interdependent web of all existence, and pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. So we recognize this first source, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder. Then we come to the second source. And again, I would like to invite you to read it with me, although I'm going to read that first line. The living tradition we share draws from many sources, words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil, to justice, passion, and the transforming power of love. From words and deeds of some unknown cave person, perhaps, who suggested and demonstrated cooperation instead of fighting, or more recent attempts to do the same, from Plato to Jefferson, Margaret Fuller to Emerson, from Rosa Parks to Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Words and deeds from all cultures and societies challenge us. Some of these prophetic women and men were successful in challenging the evil, and so we have their words. Some of them were not as successful, and so we don't have their words, but they probably influenced the next generation anyway. Think about this source. Can you see its influence on Unitarian Universalism? I can see its source's influence even on our Sunday services, in our meetings, in our readings from some of these words of these men and women, and hopefully from our homilies about some of their deeds. I also see this source in what we do in our social action efforts, speaking out against injustice and challenging the wrongs that we see, advocating and working for justice and compassion, feeding the hungry, educating the poor and incarcerated, and being prophetic locally, at times ourselves. And I can see a direct connection between this source and at least 5 of our affirmations: justice, equity, and compassion. That's the alternative to evil. Acceptance of one another, that's the power of love. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning, that's how one is inspired to become a prophet. The right of conscience, which is why we listen to these prophets, and especially the 8th, working to dismantle racism. Looking at our UU values, I find this source to be directly linked to at least 4 of them. Justice, we work to be diverse, social, multicultural, beloved community where all thrive. Transformation, we accept and adapt to the changing world. Equity, we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. And interdependence, the web of all existence of which we are a part. So we recognize this second source, words and deeds of prophetic women and men. The third source, if you'll join me again, the living tradition we share draws from many sources, wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us to our ethical and spiritual life. My turn. I know, you're just so eager. Much of our Unitarian Universalist faith and values can be either traced to or at least seen in other world religions. The sacredness of life, why and how we care for each other, the sacredness of the earth, the value of community, treating everyone equally, treating everyone fairly, the community of the spiritual journey, the value of ceremonies, our connections with nature. Think about this source. Can you see other influences on Unitarian Universalism? I can certainly see this source's influence on our worship as we make use of decorations, of candles, our water and stones that we're not using today, and other symbols, our inclusion of joys, sorrows, and milestones. In what we do in our interfaith social justice work, in our support for other religious groups when they have been maligned. And I can see a direct connection between this source and all 8 of our affirmations. I expect you can as well. Looking at our UU values, I think this source can be directly linked to all 6 of them. So we recognize the third of our sources, wisdom from the world's religions. Now the fourth, if again you will join me, the living tradition we share draws from many sources, Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. I know that some Jewish and Christian traditions are to the contrary, and that some of their followers are to the contrary, but here is the heart of the Judeo-Christian tradition for us: the image of God as a God of love, and our tradition of a do-something religion, being loving neighbors. With the previous source, we could find their influence on our Unitarian Universalism if we looked for it, but this one you can't miss. This is where we came from most directly. Both of our traditions were declared as heresies from the early church councils. Both come from the early Christian church, as Christianity came from Judaism. The Unitarian heresy was the insistence on a unitary God rather than a Trinitarian God, which was voted on and supported by the emperor. I believe that was Constantine at that point in 325. The Universalist heritage was the belief in a universal salvation, that God was too good to condemn anyone to an eternal hell. That council was in 544 when it became a heresy. Of course, declaring something a heresy does not destroy it. It just pushes it underground. So both resurfaced during the Reformation and the Enlightenment. For centuries, in both of our traditions, we called ourselves Christians. And many of us still do call ourselves Christians, if at least liberal Christians. And it's easy to see this source in our services, our hymns, our sermons, our readings, our prayers, joys and sorrows, our music, even in our announcements, which shows the community at work. And I see this source in what we do in our social justice work, being neighbors to the poor and the homeless, standing with the disenfranchised, acting out of love rather than hate. So I can see this source as connected with all 8 of the affirmations and all 6 of our values. So we recognize our 4th source, Jewish and Christian teachings. The 5th source, again, if you would, the living tradition we share draws from many sources, humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the result of science, and warn against our equalities of mind and earth. In some ways, humanism was a reaction to the otherworldliness of those Jewish and Christian teachings. In some ways, it is also a logical extension of the previous sources, direct experience and prophetic words and the world religions and Judeo-Christians' love of neighbor. Humanism teaches the importance of living in this world, not the next, where the use of reason is essential, where the results of science affect our whole lives. And in a culture where society pushes us all toward an unquestioning going along with, if not a reverence for conformity, humanism gives us a religious and ethical foundation for our actions and encourages us into a community of mutual support. Humanism has a strong tradition here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. And it was part of the fellowship movement of the 40s and early 60s, where Monroe husbands would spend 6 weeks in a community having meetings and then saying, okay, you all can take care of yourself now and go on to the next, usually where there was a university. It is very much a part of who we are as a people and as an association. Think about this source. Can you see its influence on Unitarian Universalism? I can see this source's influence in our worship, if we use that phrase. Readings, sermons, announcements, joys and sorrows, music. Music seems to be in all of them. And in what we do in our community, standing with the disenfranchised and standing for the poor and the homeless and working to dismantle racism. And I can see a direct connection between this source and in all 8 affirmations and 6 values, with the proviso that we humanists like to define the words that are used. So, our 5th source, humanist teachings. Oh, we need to do the 6th first, don't we? The living tradition we share draws from many sources, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions. From earth-centered traditions, we get our devotion to ecology and interdependence with all of life, the cyclical aspects of life. Think about this source. Can you see its influence on today's Unitarian Universalism? I can see its this source influence in our Sunday services, our meditations and silences, the use of circles and water and the cardinal directions and seasons, candles and other symbols, even joys, sorrows, and milestones. I can see this source in our work in the wider world, speaking out for the earth and the ecosystem, our commitment to recycling and supporting the Green Amendment. I can see a direct connection between this source and all 8 of the affirmations, especially the 7th, which is that source of focus on the web, and all of our Unitarian Universalist values, especially our value for interdependence. So the 6th source, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions. The sources then are summed up in that sentence at the end. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision. While other religious traditions seem to prefer sameness, we are grateful for our pluralism, we are grateful for our diversity and want more. But be warned, pluralism does mean there will be disagreements, maybe even conflicts, because we don't all think alike, we don't all sing alike, we don't all approach life alike, we don't all speak alike, we don't all act alike, we don't all behave alike, we don't all support alike, we don't all have the same image of this church. But this variety, this diversity, this pluralism enriches us as a community, ennobles us as a congregation, deepens our understanding of one another, and expands our vision of what we can be and do together. It all demonstrates to the rest of this area that pluralism can work, that pluralism enriches us all. This is worth everything. This is worth covenanting together for. This is worth affirming and promoting. This is worth telling others about. May we do so with dedication and gusto. Your turn.
Thank you very much. The homily is finished. It's time to collect the money. You all know that, churches have to support themselves, and we are all for that. The thing is, this is getting close to the end of the quarter, and we're nearing the end of donations for the oddly named Dharma horse equine. Horse, they used to be equines, right? Support horse equine, but oddly named. So let's listen to the Carlsons and give money.
grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith. May we, each of us, be inspired to deepen our understanding. May we, each of us, expand our vision. So be it. Blessed be Ashe and Amen. Our closing song, again from the Teal Hymnal, 1018, Come and Go With Me. And can we just do a verse of this since I talk so long? If you'll stand as you're willing and able.
Would you please say with me the words for extinguishing the flame? We extinguish this flame